Exclusivity, efficiency, or refinement? Which one actually matters? Today we are looking at three very different answers to that question. MV Agusta, Kawasaki, and Ducati have all revealed major updates, and they could not be more different. From ultra-exclusive hyper-naked machines to city-ready hybrids and refined adventure bikes, each one points toward a different future for motorcycles. Let us start with the Italian hyper-naked that immediately grabbed our attention. MV Agusta calls it the Rush Titanio, a hyper-naked limited to just 300 units worldwide. And straight away, you can tell this isn't built to chase rivals. It's built to make a point. This is one of those bikes that exists because it can. At first glance, the story revolves around materials. Titanium runs through the bike in a way that feels deliberate, not decorative. Carbon fiber is everywhere, but it's not there for show. It's part of the structure, part of the identity. The finish leans dark and industrial, with that Nero Intenso tone giving it a raw, almost mechanical presence. It doesn't try to look pretty, it looks serious. Then you notice something unexpected, a fully Alcantara seat that's also waterproof. And if this kind of ultra-premium, limited production engineering is your thing, hit that like button, drop a hype in the comments, and subscribe. Because that's exactly what keeps us bringing you these high-end, next-level machines every single week. Now that might sound like a small detail, but it tells you everything about this machine. This isn't about practicality. It's about creating something that feels special every time you throw a leg over it. Something you remember even when it's parked. And underneath all that design work, the numbers back it up. You've got a 1,000 cubic centimeters, inline 4, pushing just over 200 horsepower, depending on the setup. That puts it firmly into superbike territory, but without the fairings, without the filters. It's all out in the open. The throttle response has been sharpened, the gearing refined, and by all accounts, the shifts feel quicker and more precise than before. But the real story isn't just the power, it's how that power is managed, because this is where things get clever. The Öhlins Smart EC 3.0 suspension system isn't just reacting, it's constantly adjusting in real time. It reads what the bike is doing, what the road is doing, and adapts on the fly to keep everything composed, and it's all tied together. ABS, traction control, wheelie control, every system is talking, working in the background to keep this thing right on the edge without tipping over it. You're not fighting the bike, you're working with it. And that's what makes the Rush Titanio feel different. It's not built for the average rider, it's not even trying to be. This is what happens when a manufacturer pushes everything materials, performance, electronics, without stepping back to ask whether it makes sense. It's bold, it's excessive, and in a strange way, that's exactly the point. But here's the shift. While MV Agusta is pushing performance to its absolute extreme, another manufacturer is asking a completely different question. What if the future isn't about more power, but about smarter power? Because what Kawasaki is doing next might redefine everything. That is why we have to shift gears. Because while MV Agusta is pushing the limits of outright performance, Kawasaki is taking a much quieter, but arguably more important path. And this is where things start to get genuinely interesting. Now I'm curious, have you ever actually ridden a hybrid or even an electric bike in the city? Drop your experience in the comments, because real-world feedback matters way more than spec sheets. And honestly, this is the kind of shift that could change how a lot of us ride day to day. Kawasaki isn't dealing in concepts anymore. This isn't a show bike or a distant idea, and they're refining real machines, the Z7 Hybrid and the Ninja 7 Hybrid, bikes that already introduced something most riders weren't quite sure how to take it first. A true hybrid system combining a combustion engine with an electric motor. Now, for 2027, the biggest change isn't about adding more power. It's about making the whole system actually usable. The headline update is simple on paper. The EV mode now works all the way up to around 37 miles per hour. That might not sound like a massive leap, but in the real world, it changes everything. Because before, electric-only riding felt limited, more of a feature than something you'd depend on. Now, that speed range covers most urban situations, traffic flow, side streets, commuting through town, even those slower stretches where you're just rolling along. Suddenly, it becomes something you can actually use every day. For riders who spend time in the city, that matters. You can move through traffic quietly with no fuel being burned, no heat coming off the engine, and no emissions at all. And that last part is only getting more important. Low emission zones aren't a future idea anymore. They're already here, and they're expanding. Cities are tightening restrictions, and Kawasaki looks like one of the few. Manufacturers not just reacting, but preparing ahead of time. But they didn't stop with the electric side of things. They've also refined the ECU, smoothing out how the engine and motor work together. The handover between the two feels less abrupt, more natural, like the bike understands what you're asking for without that slightly mechanical hesitation. And then there's the transmission. In sport mode, the updated automatic system now responds faster and more cleanly. You're not relying on paddle shifts anymore. It's doing the work for you, but in a way that still feels engaging when you open it up. So what you end up with is something quite different. A motorcycle that can glide through the city like an electric machine, shift seamlessly into hybrid when you need range, and still give you a proper ride when the road opens up. That's not just clever engineering. That's Kawasaki adapting to a world that's already changing, because they're not trying to beat traditional performance bikes at their own game. They're looking at where riding is heading and adjusting before they're forced to, and compared to where these hybrids started, this feels far more complete, less like an experiment, more like a clear direction forward. But while some manufacturers are chasing the future with hybrid systems and bold new tech, others are taking a completely different route. They're not trying to reinvent anything. They're refining, and sometimes that's the smarter move. That's exactly what Ducati seems to be doing with the latest version of the DesertX. Now, at a glance, it still looks like the same rugged, Dakar-inspired machine we already know. Tall stance, purposeful design, very much built for getting off the beaten path. But underneath that familiar skin, there's been a very deliberate shift in how this bike is put together. And interestingly, Ducati didn't start with more power. They started with how the bike feels. The new aluminum monocoque frame isn't just lighter on paper. It changes the way the DesertX behaves out on the road, and more importantly, off it. By bringing the center of gravity down and tightening up the weight balance, the bike feels noticeably more settled, especially when you're carrying speed over uneven ground. And that's where this really matters, because in the real world, adventure riding isn't smooth or predictable. It's loose surfaces, unexpected bumps, long days in the saddle, where confidence in the bike makes all the difference. And this updated chassis gives you exactly that, more stability without making the bike feel heavy or sluggish. It's not the kind of change you brag about in a headline, but it's the kind you appreciate every mile. Then you've got the engine. Ducati's V2 setup now comes with their variable valve timing system, putting out around 110 horsepower and roughly 68 pound-feet of torques. Solid numbers, sure, but what stands out here isn't peak output. It's how usable that performance feels. Down low, it's smoother, easier to manage, especially when traction is limited. Out on the trail, that means less fighting the bike and more focusing on where you're going. But open it up on a stretch of highway, and it still delivers that punchy, responsive feel you'd expect from a Ducati. It hasn't been toned down. It's been sharpened. The updated gearing plays a big role here too. It bridges that gap between off-road crawling and long-distance cruising far more effectively than before. So instead of feeling like you're riding a compromise, it starts to feel like a bike that genuinely handles both sides of the job. And that's not easy to pull off. That same level of thought carries into the electronics. You've got revised riding modes like Enduro and Rally, but these aren't just minor tweaks. They genuinely change how the bike responds, adjusting power delivery, traction behavior, and overall feel depending on the terrain. Add in upgraded suspension and braking, and the DesertX feels composed, whether you're picking your way through loose dirt or braking hard on pavement. Everything about it feels more intentional, more resolved. This is still a serious off-road machine, but now with the kind of road manners that make it far easier to live with day to day. And striking that balance is where most bikes in this category fall short. They lean too far one way. Ducati's trying to meet right in the middle, and this time they're getting very close. So when you step back, this isn't just another update. It's Ducati quietly dialing everything in, keeping what worked, fixing what didn't, and tightening the whole package into something that feels more complete. And when you look at that alongside what we've just seen from MV Agusta and Kawasaki, you start to notice something. 3 manufacturers, 3 completely different approaches, all aiming at the future, but heading in very different directions. So the real question is, which one actually gets it right? Quick one, are you enjoying this breakdown so far? Hit that like button, and if you want to support the channel even more, you can become a member and get early access to the newest videos. And let's just take a step back for a moment, because this is where things start to get really interesting. Up until now, it might feel like we've just been looking at a few separate updates. A new hyper naked here, a hybrid system there, a refined adventure bike somewhere in the middle. But it's more than that. What we're actually seeing is 3 very different answers to the same question. Where do motorcycles go from here? And the fascinating part is, there isn't one clear direction. Start with technology. Across all 3 manufacturers, it's obvious that electronics are playing a bigger role than ever before. But how they're being used tells 3 completely different stories. With MV Agusta, It's all about control at the limit, advanced rider aids, semi-active suspension, real-time adjustments, all designed to help you manage extreme performance. It's technology stepping in to support something that would otherwise be overwhelming. Ducati takes a slightly different approach. The systems are still there, still highly advanced, but the focus shifts. Instead of chasing outright intensity, it's about creating a smoother, more predictable ride, something that adapts to you rather than constantly challenging you. And then there's Kawasaki. They're not just refining the riding experience, they're rethinking the entire platform. Hybrid technology changes the conversation completely. It's not just about how the bike behaves, but how it's powered in the first place. Same industry, same challenges, three completely different solutions. And that naturally brings us to the next divide: performance versus efficiency. MV Agusta is very clearly leaning into the idea that more is more. More power, more exotic materials, more presence. It's not subtle, and it's not meant to be. It's about pushing boundaries and making a statement. Kawasaki, on the other hand, is questioning whether that approach still makes sense long-term. Their hybrid setup is built around flexibility. It acknowledges traffic, emissions, and the reality that not every ride is about outright speed. It's performance, but with restraint. Then you've got Ducati sitting right between those two worlds. They're not chasing extremes, and they're not flipping the table either. Instead, they're refining the formula, making the bike more capable, more balanced, more usable in a wide range of conditions. It's less about headlines, more about getting everything to work better together. And then there's something else running underneath all of this: premium positioning. Look at the materials being used: titanium, carbon fiber, high-end components that go beyond basic function. These choices aren't just about performance, they're about how these bikes make you feel. Because motorcycles are shifting. They're no longer just machines you ride. They're machines you connect with. Limited production runs, attention to detail, distinctive finishes. These are becoming just as important as horsepower figures or top speed. The emotional side of riding is being designed as carefully as the mechanical side. And when you combine all of that, technology, performance philosophy, and this move toward premium experiences, you don't get one single path forward. You get multiple directions, all unfolding at the same time. Some bikes will keep chasing raw performance, some will focus on efficiency and adaptability, and others will aim to deliver a more complete, well-rounded experience. So this isn't a straight road anymore. It's a crossroads, and every manufacturer is choosing where they stand, which leads to a bigger question. Out of all these directions, which one actually matters most to riders like you? Because not every path will succeed, and the one that does might shape everything that comes next. But before we wrap this up, what's one feature you wish manufacturers would focus on more? Better tech, more reliability, or just pure riding feel? Drop it in the comments, because these conversations honestly shape what we cover next on the channel. And when you take everything we've covered and really break it down, a pretty clear picture starts to form. Not because anyone's come out and said it directly, but because of the direction each of these machines is heading. MV Agusta is going all in on premium performance. These aren't just motorcycles anymore. They're statements, built with exotic materials, packed with cutting-edge tech, and designed to deliver an experience that feels intense, exclusive, and unapologetically bold. Kawasaki, meanwhile, is looking at the bigger picture. They're not just chasing speed or power, they're adapting to how riding is changing. Hybrid technology, improved usability, and a focus on efficiency suggest a future where motorcycles don't just perform, they evolve with the environment around them. And then there's Ducati, doing what Ducati tends to do best. Not chasing headlines, not reinventing the formula for the sake of it, just refining, improving, and tightening every detail until the whole package feels more complete, more capable, more dialed in for real-world riding. Three manufacturers, three very different philosophies, all moving forward at the same time. And that's what makes this moment so interesting, because this isn't just about new models or updated specs, it's about direction. It's about where motorcycling is actually going. But here's the thing. At some point, it stops being about what manufacturers want to build and starts being about what riders actually care about. So where do you stand? Are you drawn to that raw high-performance approach? The kind of bike that prioritizes emotion, power, and presence, even if it comes at a higher cost and demands a bit more from you as a rider? Or does something like Kawasaki's hybrid system make more sense? A bike that fits into modern life a little more easily, that works with traffic, regulations, and everyday usability without giving up the fun completely. And then there's the middle ground. Bikes like the DesertX, not extreme, not experimental, just exceptionally well-sorted. The kind of machine that might not grab headlines straight away, but over time proves itself where it actually counts, out on the road or off it. So I'm genuinely curious what direction speaks to you, because the industry might be exploring all of these paths at once, but only some of them will stick. And the ones that do will shape what comes next. One thing's for sure though, this isn't slowing down. Manufacturers are pushing harder, technology is moving faster, and the idea of what a motorcycle should be is shifting right in front of us, which means there's a lot more to come. More updates, bigger changes, and probably a few unexpected turns along the way. So if this is where things are heading, the next chapter of motorcycling might look very different from what we're used to, and honestly, that's what makes it worth watching. Click the next video and keep the ride going. Subscribe and become part of the crew, riding with us every week. And if you want early access and to support what we do here, you can step in as a member. And of course, don't forget to like the video. I'll see you in the next one.